Welcome back, Walkons fans, episode 216 of the podcast. Another family episode, just me and Kluver. We would have loved to involved Kevin in this one, but it was a last-minute deal. I've got a little rub down, maybe a little rub and tug action. Just kidding, it's just a rub, but no tug. But I do have a massage later this afternoon, and we wouldn't be able to get the podcast in. So just me and Kluver. Kluver, what do you got for us, bub?
Are you sure about the tug action?
Yeah, I'm pretty positive.
Okay. Is this a
I don't
place
think they do that at the Massage Envy. It's a pretty reputable chain of massage professionals.
I think, yeah, that's a chain, right?
Yeah, it is.
Because I'm pretty sure there's one in Des Moines, which is oddly relevant because I was actually just going to now that I have 10,000 followers on Twitter, I just feel like using all of you. I just want to use you guys. And a lot of you guys live in Des Moines or around the area or have been in the area. So sometimes when I need something, I'm just like, hey, tweet it out, see what people's opinions. My wife and I have got a massage before COVID hit. But then we've been looking to get another one because massages, the old massage, those things are nice.
Yeah, man. They have really helped try and keep my right hip out of needing complete replacement because it is just all bundled up in the wrong spots.
Yeah. So if you guys live in Des Moines, shout out with some, shoot us some massage best massage in Des Moines. Because some of the massage industry is kind of like sometimes you gotta. I know there's a guy in Iowa City. His name's like Mark Massage. They called him Mark.
Place. Oh, boy.
And like sometimes you gotta know somebody to like get in with some good massage spot. I don't want any of you.
And then you just hope you don't end up on Mark's hard drive.
Right. I just don't need any suggestions of something that rolls similarly to the Touch of Mink place that we talked about a few episodes ago. I don't need none of that. All right. I just need a nice little spot to go get somebody to rub me out.
Dude,
that just
pre 2020, when I was playing a lot of poker at Talking Stick, there was this one rather large female massage therapist who doubled as a roller derby player. And
what a combo.
I paid her so much money for table massages because she was very good at her job. She was able to apply the proper amount of pressure.
She could drop that weight into you, huh?
When she anchored her back foot,
oh no,
she could thrust. And I felt like I was in the middle of a roller derby match sometimes, but I always got a nice massage at the end of it.
Wow. Wow. And that's something that
they're not cheap at the poker table.
No. I mean, you're slapping 5 chips back there, I'm sure. Yeah, that's something the Walk-On Army needed to know is that you got rubbed out in the casino by
in front of everybody
by roller derby Roxy. So there you go. 5 minutes about massage. Like Drake said, we're gonna rock this episode. Planned on doing it tomorrow night, but then Drake hit us with the sudden change. Interception, defense. You got to get back on the field. Doyle used to hit it.
Speaking of that, dude, the sudden change, the anxiety.
Yeah.
It's real because I had anxiety sickness or like stress sickness on all of Sunday from the adrenaline from the night before. Like I didn't tell you when we woke up and did the podcast, but like from 3:30 a.m. throughout all of Sunday morning, early afternoon, I was just sick like I had the flu.
Yeah. You said that in the group text, and I was like, oh shit, we did the podcast during that time. He seemed all right, but you got sick because of anxiety.
I got sick because of the adrenaline that I hadn't experienced and like the dump and then the all around stress experience. Yeah, for sure.
Tweeted about it today. I did a workout, another interval workout. Intervals are just god awful. And I haven't felt like I felt in 2014. The first time we pushed prowlers, it might have even been 2013 bull prep. But the first time that we pushed prowlers in the indoor in a long time, that kind of I'm gonna hurl. I can't do anything about this feeling. And today we about got there. We about got there, and it was bad. It was the work of box jumps, high rep box jumps, along with some weights involved as well. But wow, that was bad. And I there's a certain level, and it's not nearly as much as someone who's been in the military. It's on a completely it's a different conversation. Maybe not even should be I should use this term, but there's a certain level of flashback anxiety or PTSD, if you will, to when I'm deep, like in the 95 percentile plus of what I'm physically capable of, and my legs feel like they're going to explode. I'm about to bend over a trash can. My muscles don't work anymore. And all I can think, my brain is telling me that I'm in the indoor or I'm outside on the practice field and I've got a vest on and we're pushing prowlers or running 60s. And all I can think about in the in-between time in the intervals is Doyle walking around and you're just hoping that somehow, some way that rest period goes on a little bit longer. But then it rolls around. You see him check his watch. It's hot as fuck. You can't breathe. He checks his watch and he raises his whistle to his mouth. And everything inside of you goes, oh, here's another rep. Here we go. Just got to survive. And that's how I felt today.
Did you ever throw up in front of him?
Oh, yeah.
That sucks.
Sucks, dude. And I thought about that too. I thought about how shitty of a feeling it was to be bent over and have my ass slapped by a workout that my peers also just did. They all did the same workout. And everybody else is fine or at least looks okay. And I'm over in the corner just just like can't even I remember it vividly, dude. I don't have a great memory of like very nuanced details of situations that happened years past, but I remember the first time I was over a can and Doyle's telling me to get the fuck over to the group so that we can call it up and my legs don't work. Oh, there's some very vivid memories. And I I specifically remember one time we did a workout where I threw up in the trash can. And because George was right next to me, he started throwing up because I was throwing up. And then it was like a domino effect. There was like 2 or 3 more guys. I don't think everybody would have been fine if it wasn't for me. But like 9 guys started throwing up, dude.
That's tough, dude.
Doyle was pissed.
I was never that asshole. I do think I remember that though. Now that you mentioned it.
I didn't want to be that guy. But man, if you knew what my diet and training looked like in high school, it made a lot of sense when Cluvy was bent over the 50-gallon trash can.
It also made a lot of sense looking at what your diet was in college.
It got
better when you got older because you got a little more mature, but
yep.
Like you were dog shit early.
Do you remember, was it you that took the picture of me in Hillcrest with an entire, I was thinking about this the other day too. This is weird.
How much ketchup you used to eat?
No. Well, I eat a lot of ketchup. How
much cheese you used to eat?
The mashed potatoes from the Hillcrest buffet, brother. I had an entire plate full, half mashed potatoes, half scrambled eggs, and a glass of pink lemonade.
And that was breakfast.
On like a Sunday at like 10 a.m. Oh my God. How about when they introduced that burger bar though?
So here's the thing about Kluver. This kid's a weird kind of psychopath.
Yep.
Kluver would go and he would get 2 burgers and put terrible, like dog shit, cold American cheese on it.
Yep.
And then he would top it with more ketchup than you can fit in a
Oh, you're
Heinz
talking
bar.
about snack now.
Dude, I saw you do this in Hillcrest
Or
so many
Hillcrest, sure.
times. It was real gross the way this kid forked a cheeseburger with a puddle of ketchup, dude. It honestly makes me nauseous thinking about it right now.
Oh, just throw the tomato in the macerator and drizzle it on my burg, dude. Wow. Yep. That's it, man. Hey, welcome to 216, brother. We're going to do a couple question and answers from the old Twitter sphere. Asked for it earlier today. We got a fair amount of response, and the questions, not that bad, in my
I'm
opinion.
loving that. If Kluver, you're telling the truth, I'm loving that out of the Army because not gonna lie, Kluver hasn't asked me a real barn burner of a question lately. And I just want to hear funny questions, give funny responses, and everybody laughs.
Well, yeah. Some of them are legit though. This first one is, and I think it's a good question. I think it's something I haven't thought about this ahead of time, but it was, what are the top reasons that big time high star recruits wash out or you don't even hear from them once they get into college?
Work ethic. What's your answer?
I think
ego and work ethic, and they go hand in hand.
Yeah, I think definitely to some extent it's you got those guys who think they have a brand already in high school, and maybe to some extent they do, but they go into college and it's just like, man, it's hard to find a dude, even if he's a top level recruit, that's just going to walk into college and just be able to hang.
So here's what I'm going to say is, aside from maybe 1 or 2 linebackers and then defensive ends, defensive tackles, and offensive linemen for the most part, aside from that very select group of guys who, like, if you take an absolute elite linebacker like Reuben Foster when he was in high school, like even as a 5th-year player, after I worked my balls off, I barely got to the physical stature that Reuben Foster came into Alabama with.
Yep.
And like, so there's certain limitations there, but a college program turns like their 3rd, 4th, and 5th-year players, no matter who or what stars they were coming out of high school, programs turn them into legitimate 4- and 5-star players.
Yeah.
Like if you're starting in the Big Ten, you're a 5-star player at your position. Correct. And that's just the way it is. And I'll just say we as speaking for every upperclassman who has ever played, we do not give a fuck who you are or who you think you are. You're going to come in and you're going to prove it. And if you prove that you're a good teammate and you can be relied upon and you work your balls off, then you earn everybody's respect and you are who you think you are, and this, that, and the other. But like, we don't care at first. Like, you got to come in and prove it.
Yeah. Long story short, it's basically, if it was just based on talent, sure, then you just look at the stars and you might as well not even play the games, right? That's why they play the games. But once you get into a program and then it gets on an even higher level with more distractions in the NFL, you could ask the same question: why do top college talent not pan out in the NFL? Well, it's because there's a whole lot more to it than just going out and fucking scoring touchdowns. Mm-hmm. And no bullshit, there's a lot of politics that go into it as well. Like, you gotta create relationships where people trust you, people like you. Otherwise, there's people in power that are not gonna put you in the game. And we watched that multiple times. I could think of several athletes who were plenty good to play on the field. I think of Derek Willis comes to mind. And it's not that he was a bad dude. It's not that any of the coaches, well, there are some coaches that aren't great dudes, but it's just not the right mesh. And guys don't click and you don't get the trust. A lot of off-field stuff goes into it, and Willie's had all the talent in the world, just couldn't find a way to. I mean, fuck, it's the whole story of DJK. That's what it is. DJK, and yeah, that's there's more stuff than just talent, so that's why. Um, And occasionally you'll find guys who like they get into college and their talent level was maybe just a little bit overstated and they're just another guy. And
That happens so much, dude. Just
yeah,
because somebody comes out of the South, man.
yeah,
I get that the talent pool in the South is greater.
yeah,
And when you see the best in the South, the best is going to be able to compare. But just because some kid plays weak side linebacker in the state of Florida does not mean he's worth a shit, dude. Like, he could have 3 great defensive linemen in front of him and a really good Mike linebacker standing next to him. And the kid just gets to run around and do whatever he pleases.
just kamikaze high school players.
Everybody else is completely eaten up.
Yeah.
And the kid gets to college and you see him running around like Justin Jennings. And you're like, is this a joke?
Yeah.
Like, this kid popped on the campus and I mean, kid, get lost.
That you bring up a good point. There's a mental side to the college game that is not required in high school football. And so if you got guys that come in and they don't know how to learn a playbook or remember calls, well, you can basically hang it up because you're not going to play. Yeah, it happens all the time. All right, we'll take a next question. Is there any possible way to improve the already great atmosphere and experience of Kinnick Stadium? How would you do that? And how would you make it? How would you make it more intimidating?
The music, because I don't hate on the band. The band does a great job. But the songs that the band has to pick from, I wanted to blow my head into the 17th row every time I heard Sweet Caroline in Kinnick Stadium. That is one of the worst songs that was ever created in the history of boom, boom, boom. Da, da, da. Shut the fuck up. If I never hear that song again, it would be way too soon, or it couldn't be soon enough. And then the other thing, I got to sell booze there, I guess.
Booze would be awesome. I also think that what they've done with the north end zone, you kind of build that wall. I think of Penn State. It feels like you're in the fucking Quidditch stadium of Harry Potter, dude.
It really does, dude.
And like,
so that's the other thing, dude. Penn State does not look safe. You go from the outside of the stadium and you're like, that's not safe. And then you go inside the stadium and you're like, that's for sure not safe.
But you're like, it's also for sure lit as fuck, dude.
The coolest place you've ever been, for sure. Night game whiteout in Penn State, the coolest place you've ever been. It's cooler than the Rose Bowl. It's cooler than the Big Ten championship.
If y'all haven't been to Penn State and Happy Valley and just walked outside the stadium, it's on stilts, dude. It's held up. The little craft project you do with marshmallows and toothpicks in 3rd grade. Hey, that's how they built Beaver Stadium. I think it's called Beaver Stadium. Yeah, so it's like every time they went to do an upgrade and a renovation, they were just like, hey, just put more stilts up on the top level. We'll just add another one. But it's so sick and it's so high that what that does is it creates an echo chamber of the noise. And it's just so imposing. Right? Think about the Big House. It holds 100,000 people, but the stands are so gradually placed backwards that it's almost like it's not intimidating.
That's what I've heard about the Big House, is that it's just big.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. And I think, and you've heard opposing players in interviews all the time say Kinnick's loud as shit, dude. It's because the fans are on top of you. And when you build up, so I think if at some point they renovate the south end zone, and
what they need to do is put that canopy over like the Seahawks got. Throw a couple canopies over Kinnick to hold the noise under the canopy. Yep. Ooh, we get that son bitch to 130 decibels with you crazy bastards.
Yeah, it would be something else. I do really think, and this would only be for the players, because Kinnick Stadium, it's historic Kinnick Stadium, right? The brick look, it's very kind of old school. but the
Graffiti.
yeah, like some in the locker room, not in the locker room, but the walk, they've already made the tunnel a lot better. But the conceptualized ideas that were brought to us our senior year of like having lights and like TVs of the crowd, like it would be cool for the players definitely if they hyped up that experience a
Just
little bit.
think how sick it would be if they had some of the world's best graffiti artists come and spray paint graffiti some of the coolest Iowa historic moments on
Yeah.
the bricks of Kinnick.
It would be uh, people. It would be very progressive, and there would be some old whites who wouldn't like that.
Dude, you
As
can always paint back over the bricks. Like it's not that big of a
right,
deal.
no, I understand, but it would be cool. It would be neat.
Like if they had the catch on one side,
Yeah,
and like
yeah.
maybe the blocked punt from Claiborne and like a play from Bob Sanders. I don't know. I just think that would be pretty sick.
Old Bobby Sand. I gotta find a way to get him on, dude. I reached out to Ben Hansen to try and get a contact. He doesn't know how to get in contact with the guy, dude. Dude's just off the grid. For fans
Good for
that
him, man. Good
yeah,
for him.
for fans that want Bob Sanders on the podcast, if y'all got a contact, send it to me. I mean, I'll drive to the middle of the Sahara right now if I get a lead on where Bob Sanders is because I need this guy on the podcast, man.
Kluver, you're a hard worker, man.
Dude, I'll fucking do it. I'll fly to Abu Dhabi and just, I mean, tell me where he's at. He's like Edward Snowden. This one kind of hit me like, oh shit, maybe we should be better. This guy asked main goal for 2021 for the washed up walk-ons. And I was like, oh, I don't think we have goals.
Yeah, I don't even have one. I just do this podcast because it's a great way to keep close with my friends.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people who we have formed a relationship with online. Me, not so much, but I know that like us as a
brand.
podcast
Yeah.
have formed relationships. And yeah, we like to entertain you guys. I'm only here to give a little football insight, talk about the Hawks when there's actual Hawk stuff to talk about, because I'm truly just an Iowa sports fan at this point.
Right.
And talk shit and tell jokes, man, because everybody takes life way too seriously. And the ego on American people these days, to the point where they cannot be criticized or called out because they can't be wrong. Their ego can't handle it, is just asinine to me. So I'm on here to make sure that we keep it light and we keep the shit talking rolling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean, that's Drake. That's you to a T, and that's why this podcast runs so well. For me personally, I'm not like, I used to think I was, and I think in another setting I might be a funny guy, like in a scripted way. If I was a comedian, like if I actually wrote up a set and like practice it,
I've got
I'm not
written jokes, by the way. I want to do stand up someday.
I know it's really intriguing. I am not like Drake, and I try to be sometimes, but I'm just not like Drake. I'm not like some of these other dudes who are just like, the personality is at any point I could pop off with some funny shit. I'm not that guy. I think I am, but I'm not. I'd love to be that guy, but I'm not. You got to know who you are. And so for me, it's definitely a way to, we started this podcast out of pure love for Hawkeye football. And just like, I mean, it was legit. We were like, we had the first conversation because we just missed. It was 3 games into the first season. We weren't on the field, and we were all like, damn, man, we missed this hardcore already. And like, we just need to talk about it. And then we realized, and the reason why the podcast has blew up and then has sustained the level of, success that it has, is there really isn't a market, or there isn't somebody in the market of young, content based around Iowa sports that is edgy. And so like, that's who we are. And so my goal for the podcast is to basically just continue to make content that nobody else in the Iowa Hawkeye realm does. It doesn't just have to be about football. You've heard us talk about basketball. You've heard us wrap in current events. I mean, we'll talk shit on anybody. It's pure entertainment. And we just want to provide like an hour or two a week where people can just be like, damn, like we get to listen to about a little bit of Hawkeye sports. And also those two assholes are way crazier than me. So at least I'm not them. Right.
And here's the other thing is that I don't know if the listeners know the crazy roller coaster ride that they've actually been on with me over the past however many years we've done this podcast. Because like behind the scenes, you and Kevin know how unbelievably off the handle I've been at some points over the last 3 years.
Yep.
And we've still, for the most part, pulled up and got on the podcast and tried to put our best foot forward. And that's been a bit of a growing experience, like a lesson where no matter how bad you feel, like sometimes you just got to get something done. So that's been a helpful little task in my life to try and keep me grounded. But I don't know, the podcast has in a way been a bit of a therapy.
That brings me to my last goal or reason why I do this podcast is just to make sure that Drake is alive another week on this earth. It's just to make sure like, hey, if he doesn't show up, then something went down. Excuse me. Something happened because, you know, I got to make sure the guy shows up to the Zoom meeting, and I'm basically just a sponsor at this point.
Guess what fuckers daddy keeps showing up.
I'm a life sponsor to Drake Kulik. You're a 5-star coming out of high school right now. Where do you pick to go? It can't be Iowa. And
it has to be Alabama. It can't be anywhere but Alabama. Like, if you want to win a national championship and be a first-round draft pick, you go to Alabama, and that's that.
I think I'm hard to say that isn't a goal or something that would like everyone would like to do. I don't know, man. You know,
my choice would be LSU. Just me personally, I would go to Baton Rouge.
LSU is like Bama with, you know, with how talented they are, but they got a little more swag. They got a little swag to them.
I would definitely try and get the number 7 at LSU if I was a 5-star recruit. That would be that would be the life goal. And then once I did that, that means that I've accomplished goals in the future too. Because the number 7 at LSU typically it's drafted pretty high.
Yeah, I don't know, man. God, I'm a fucking homer, man. I really like Iowa, but if I'm gonna go win a ship somewhere, I mean, Oklahoma would be sick. Georgia would be sick. I mean, one of those schools. If TCU wasn't dog shit, I love the purple and black color scheme.
You remember when they had Deuce Boogie playing quarterback for him? They weren't,
but now they are.
What happened to him? I think he went to jail or something.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys who went to jail.
There are a lot of guys that went to jail.
Speaking of, how about that Aaron Hernandez fucking post that did you send it to the group? Wow. That was something.
Hey, if there's anybody in the world who can unite the people who that Florida Gators team united, it is Tim Tebow.
You're right.
You needed the resurrected Christ to come down and pull those jamokes together
to make sure that team didn't come apart at the seams, dude. Tim was probably I can just to make sure those guys didn't get suspended. Tim was probably never sleeping on the weekends, just driving around, picking people up, drunk as hell.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't sleeping with any chicks because he made sure to let everybody know about it.
He's very open about the whole virgin God stuff, which is cool, but like, and maybe it's not even so much him. I think obviously the media runs with that kind of shit, so it's probably not all his fault. But yeah, he had all the time in the world because he wasn't, you know, passing out the meat. No. I mean, passing out the meat. Who am I? What is that? Like I was passing out the meat. I mean, like, what is this? I mean,
dude, you sat in your little hole and played Minecraft like the nerdiest white kid I've ever seen in my life.
I was in a committed
dude, to be honest, you lived college like a school shooter.
Oh, 100%. I was in a committed relationship with YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how it went. Any chance we'll see other athletes from other sports? Come on, man. I'd love to. So here's the thing with other sports, right? The legends, yes. Like we're gonna have Spencer Leon guaranteed. I've reached out to Luca multiple times from multiple accounts. I might have to go the route of his father to get actually in touch with him so that he sees it, because I'm sure he gets unreal DMs and just like kind of ignores shit like that. So I'd love to have Luca on. I'd love to have Caitlin Clark on at some point. I tried to reach out to Megan Gustafson, fucking ghosted 3 times. So there's not as much of a connection, right, on the same level. But we've had Lugo on, we had Nick Bear on, we had multiple
I'm
guys.
pretty much open for every single wrestler because
Any
I
wrestler.
really like those dudes.
I
Like if there
mean,
could be any group of dudes I could be friends with, I'd pick those ones for sure.
yeah. Um, yeah, it's and they're just the personality, just the responses to anything we talked about with those dudes. Yeah, absolutely. Um, Transfer portal, we talked about that a little bit. Funniest or best interaction you ever had with an official? Do you have any good ones? No?
No, man, I should have definitely gotten thrown out of games for what I've said to officials though. I think they must have just thought my voice blended in with the coaches. They must have
Yeah.
thought I was Brian Ferentz yelling at them, but I was like, officials. Me and officials didn't get along great.
There was one time, oftentimes the big boys across the line of scrimmage on the PAT field goal unit. There's rules about protecting the long snapper, this, that, the other. It doesn't really happen. The snappers get absolutely run through. Like, oh God.
Oh God, don't do it.
I really just about dropped a.
Oh my God,
Are
I
you?
know who you were about to say.
No, you
You
don't.
sick freak.
No. I was gonna mention the Minnesota scandal a few years ago.
Oh no, I didn't. But wow.
That was a bad one. Those little guys, I mean, those long snappers, those poor dudes, they get absolutely trampled. And it had happened 2 or 3 times in a row. And the first couple times I kind of looked at the ref like, come on, man. Like, did he come through me? Like, is that illegal? Third time I looked up, and this was a guy that we did have a lot. And I jokingly, in a laughing way, kind of looked at him and I was like, you just don't fucking like me, huh? And he like gave me a smile, but like that was it. Dude just wasn't trying to do his job that day. And that's cool. Like, it's whatever.
We've seen a lot of officials that weren't trying to do their job that day.
Yeah. There's probably a few things that I said on the football field, one specifically in an Iowa State game, where I was, yeah, I could have been toted off the field for several reasons. If you had to rate the following, what was more emotional? Greenwood's return to Kinnick, the first wave, KF shedding tears at any time, like when he just talks to the team, or the last few minutes of the Michigan game. Those 4. And this is going to sound weird, but the first wave is 4th.
Same.
Bar not, like, hands down. And I'll tell you why, is because especially before it was this crazy big thing, the mindset that you get in, I mean, it's a process, right? You wake up and you start to get in this mode, and you're not in the position that the fans are to really take in that moment like you do when you're in the stands. When you're a player, you're like, all right, cool, we're going to get this wave thing done. And it's not disrespect. It's just like, hey, we got a job to do. And it is what it is.
For me, the first wave, I was just like, thought it was a very great concept and was looking forward to watching it manifest itself, but emotional, not so much. Now watching Brett walk, that's probably, I mean, that's probably number 1, right?
Especially after watching him just during the weeks leading up to that.
Yeah.
With Doyle in Pat in the weight room practicing the walk knowing what was going to happen. I mean, when Doyle told us he's going to lead us out of the locker room a couple weeks before that happened, I was like, oh shit. Oh, this is going to be something. And it was something. Like it was, man, that, I mean, I feel that right now.
And so what was, besides the Michigan one, what was the other one?
When KF gets emotional and tears up, like in post-game talks and stuff like that. I'd probably put that as number 2 and Michigan as number 3, but both of those are very, the Michigan one was emotional for me in a different way because I literally had a hand in the last play. And so it was almost on an anxiety level kind of thing. Like, oh, this is, the emotions of this are, if I snap this over Ron Calusi's head, well, I'm now on a hit list.
You'd have been on my hit list and it wouldn't have lasted long. I would have expired that hit extremely quickly.
Yeah. The Russians are taking me out if I don't snap this ball correctly. Right. So that was a different kind of emotion. When KF, man.
But he said the last few minutes of the Michigan
game. The last few minutes, the whole kind of last series, I guess, take it back to basically the
interception, because if you take it from that low,
the interception,
that high, that's one of the greatest discrepancies of all time, because I had tears welling up in my eyes when CJ got hit and that ball floated, because I was like, well, we just almost did it. Like we just almost pulled off the coolest thing of all time.
Yeah.
And then we actually did. So, I mean, from the low to the peak, that's number 1. But as far as like emotional, like, oh shit, I can't hold it
crying
back. Greenwood would have been number 1, Michigan would have been 2, and then KF would have been 3. I always thought it was cool when KF got teary-eyed in front of us, but it never made me emotional.
It never really made me emotional either, but it was an emotional kind of thing. I wish that as a former player, I could describe what it's like to see that man open up like that and let loose in a locker room because of what you were a part of. He truly cared. And this goes back to like people wanting to donate more money. I mean, Jesus Christ. What that man has given the university his whole life.
His spirit, man. His spirit lives within the walls of Hanson.
His soul is bred into the turf at Kinnick. I mean, it's like, and when you see him, he loves football, the game of football, so goddamn much. I mean, his love for football is 10,000 times more than I love the game of football. And that's not an exaggeration. Football to me is like, oh, cool. It's a game I played. It got me into college. It's cool. It's part of my identity a little bit. Less and less as time goes on. That man loves the game of football and loves changing lives and being a leader of young men. And it's like, when he cries, it's like, oh man, we did something. Like it gets serious. Last question. And I know we've kind of talked about this before, but someone asked, what was your first interaction with each other? Drake?
Dude, I saw the picture that he posted to go at the Under Armour All-American game.
Yeah.
And I just looked at it a lot.
Swag monster.
I just thought to myself, like, this is my roommate. I just kept thinking, like, I have to live with this idiot. And then I was like, I'm going to get kicked off the team for beating this kid up.
Yep.
And then we ended up being friends. And he was only about 84% as big of a douchebag as I thought he was going to be. And
that's a win.
I was 100% of the douchebag he expected. So he got what he was expecting. And I don't know. We formed a friendship.
It was, yeah. I don't know if we would have lived closer to each other and we would have played each other. Like if I played for Bettendorf for PV or something.
Dude, I'd have killed you.
We would have absolutely despised each other.
Yeah.
100%.
We would have had to fight.
Yeah. And I would have lost. And Yeah, man. My first interaction with Drake was, back in the time it was Chick Ijiashi, who's now with the Titans. Eventually Binns took over his job and now Sam Brinks, but he basically texted us that summer. Drake had already been working out with guys that were cooler than me. Fucking, I think Josie and Bo were both in
No,
this
Josie wasn't. Josie was playing baseball at
baseball.
Decorah. Yeah.
Okay,
Me and
so
Bo were getting after it though.
you and who?
Me and Bo and Kevin.
Yep, Bo, Kevin, and Drake had already been, doing the freshman intro workouts, and so like, I'm definitely, dude. Bro, to this day, I just posted a video of me in a fucking vest doing air squats. Like, who am I, dude? That's just who I am. And I'm totally, you can tell I'm very comfortable with that. But it's
Yeah.
just who I am, bro. Like, I'm that guy that posts pictures of his abs. Hey, guy, nobody cares. And I was even more so that guy. I mean, dude, I brought 38 Rubik's Cubes to our dorm room. Hey, it's a good thing I had a girlfriend because nobody was coming to our room for sexual encounters.
That's the facts.
There's
That's
no room.
facts only.
There's no room in the bed for a female when you got a 7x7 to solve, And so that's who I was, freaking just some weirdo from Marshalltown who, hey, and guess what? I'm the long snapper, so it fit, man. It fit. But Drake and I, we had some, Drake, hey, Tyler, Drake Kulik is going to be your roommate for Muscatine. I'm like, okay, cool. And of course, I searched him up and I'm like, shit, he kind of looks like a thug and he's got earrings in his picture. And there's a kid from Marshalltown who looked very similar to you.
And you for sure hated him because if I could go back in time, I would have hated myself.
Hated him, dude. Hated him. And in fact, one day outside of the gym in Marshalltown, or maybe it was in the locker room, he took the back edge of he liked to fuck around and like he thought he was a tough guy, thought he was a big time tough guy.
Sounds like a high school Drake.
Yeah. But you would have whooped this kid's ass too. I mean, he was maybe 170. He took the back of a pocket knife, not the sharp edge, but like the blunt edge of it, and came up behind me one time and like took it to my neck.
Okay, well, this story immediately is out of line because if you grab the knife, now you just grab the blade.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, what do you, and I just kind of like let it happen because we were at school in front of a bunch of people. And I was like, okay, so someone's just trying to be a dick. And then eventually he like let go and I turned around. I'm like, oh, it's you. What a surprise. What a surprise. And I thought, okay, Drake looks like this kid. And then we get there and it's like, okay, now we're in camp and we had different camp roommates. So I'm not quite living with Drake yet, but I'm watching him as we're seeing each other and the first 3 weeks are happening and we're kind of in our own world because it's like, oh, we're in a 23-day long camp that sucks. And then eventually we move into Hillcrest and we had, several interactions by that point. And you kind of just like, it's kind of part of the whole thing that Mark said. Be you, but align with us, right? And part of aligning with us is finding common ground between who you've been picked to room with and just don't make it an issue. Don't be a problem.
And to be honest, it was a really good thing that freshman Drake got a roommate like Kluver.
You're
because
right.
Kluver was a very Pepto-Bismol type of dude. Like any inflammatory anything, Kluver can settle the vibe. Kluver does not start situations.
I'm a human tum-tum.
Exactly. So, I mean, Kluver had seen me get a little bit volatile at times, but he was the type of roommate who helped me to keep things under control. So
that's a nice way of putting things. There there were several occasions where
Like, dude, I couldn't control my temper when I was 18 and 19 years old. Like,
I'm aware.
I barely could control it when I was like 24.
Yeah. I know.
But at 19, it was a real mess.
So in an odd way, it was good that we got paired together, because Drake's right. If there's any descriptor of me as a person, I am the least instigative, confrontational person. I am the fire blanket. That's who I am, right? And Drake, he was a box of matches. And there were kids, there were several times where I had to kind of step in a situation and make sure that this dumbass kid who liked to beat his head into the mirror of the bathroom of third floor at Hillcrest, that him and Drake didn't fight each other. Drake would have a murder charge on his hand. There was a time where Drake found out some information about a previous relationship that he was in, and he might have set off the alarm to the entire dormitory for going onto the roof. Why was he on the roof? Make your assumptions. Good thing there was a cage on top of that thing. Yeah, man, there was several occasions. So we eventually, we had some late night talks that freshman year, and we really found a way to just be like, our room was kind of the place to hang out. Between the two of us, we were kind of able to become friends with everybody. Mm-hmm. And clearly we're doing a freaking podcast together now. So something worked out, man. Something worked out. That's it. We're an hour deep. We're an hour deep, and you gotta go get that rub and tug. So yes. That's it. I hope you guys, those are some decent questions. Definitely a good conversation. And as always, just like tag Kevin and tell him he sucks ass, dude. That's just
keep doing it. Just at Kevin Ward, at KWardy26.
Yeah.
Suck ass.
He's got all the money, but he sucks ass. He does have a cool bar, and we're gonna have to find a way to hang out with him at some point, sometime soon.
And I'm pretty sure that the reason he didn't show up to our last podcast was because he was getting a rub and tug.
I'm so the evidence points in that direction.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm just not going to go any further than that, because he'll probably listen to this and go, hey, don't say that. So, it is what it is. Sorry, Kev. That's it. 216. We've clowned around enough. Hope y'all have a fantastic freaking weekend. Peace.